I think that because this book, the research that I do is about schools, people tend to think that I wrote this book for schools, but of course I wrote it for parents too. I mean, I am a parent and I know what it's like to feel powerless to help your kids when they're in trouble. So one of the last things I did in this book was to try and distill all of the stuff I had learned over the course of the years into a set of basic pointers for parents of teenagers who are having social problems in school, including being bullying or being isolated by peers or whatever. And I can share a few of those pointers. The first thing is that you have to know the symptoms. And depression is a big one of them, but parents often don't know what depression looks like. So I always encourage them to Google the Center for Epidemiological Studies depression scale, because this gives a list of behaviors that they can look for in their teenagers as a sign that they might be suffering from emotional distress. Another big thing is substance use. Smoking pot, drinking. This is something that parents often gloss over actually, because they say, oh, it's just teenagers being teenagers. But it can also be a sign of trouble, a sign that they're in trouble and that action needs to be taken. And then there's academic disengagement, so skipping school, cutting classes, withdrawing from the daily processes of school. That also is a warning sign. And when parents see any of these warning signs, they can't just expect for it to pass over. They have to act, even if it means that sometimes they're going to act too hastily. The second thing is you have to know what supports resilience or doing well despite the risks. So niche selection is this really fancy sounding phrase that means something very simple, which is helping teenagers find their niche or find their place. That could be a sport, a talent, an activity, a club, volunteering, something where they're going to connect to other kids who are like them and find kindred souls and also give them a sense of accomplishment in the process. And then there's the web. And that can be both a good thing and a bad thing in teenagers' lives. And when it becomes a bad thing, like when the high school peer culture and bullying follows kids home, that can be very distressing for parents. But they can't have kids turn it off because that just doesn't work. They can't ban it. So another way to do things is to try and teach kids to more effectively use the new media. And as a starting point for this, I always tell parents, just get online with your kids for an hour and figure out what their online lives look like as a means of turning the web into a context of healthy development as opposed to a place of social problems. And then the third thing is that parents can know that they are able to make demands of schools. We are in this age where there's a lot of talk about this new breed of obnoxious helicopter parents, and we often forget when we talk about that most parents, the majority of parents, don't feel comfortable making demands of schools or raising their voice in school. But when their kid's in trouble, they have the responsibility and the right to raise their voices, and they have to do it a lot, and they have to make their voices really loud in the process.